Friday. Absolute crash out from Haley Stevens. We're going to be talking about her tweet. Her closing message is literally the most online shit I've ever fucking seen. So what is really frustrating about the way that these establishment Democrats have been operating, I've realized they're just extremely online. Like, they are running the most extremely online campaign possible. And the expectation usually from these guys, the way that they've presented themselves for many, many years, we'll start off with the Haley Stevens closing message. Okay? One of the things that I have realized, one of the things that I have noticed, rather, and find very interesting is the fact that the establishment wing of the Democratic Party used to present themselves as like the reasonable people that understood the working class. People that didn't spend a good deal of time on the internet, people that were, doing the work, a workhorse, if you will, right? From Michigan. And what's been really interesting about this process is that it turns out when left to their own devices, when they actually have a real left flank insurgency that is taking out seats piece by piece, the only tools that they have in their tool belt is the old school, shallow identity politics, false smears of claiming that your opponent is like anti-black or anti-woman, and claiming electability to an increasingly smaller group of people at the heart of the party. And last but not least, unbelievable levels of enmity towards people that they feel have wronged them online. And it is a remarkably online candidacy for Haley Stevens. You wouldn't expect it because she's like goofy. She's got the Youper accent. She's like really building this up, right? She's hyping herself up as I'm a roll my sleeves kind of gal to do Michigan stuff, right? She's LARPing. When the only thing she has done, and especially with her closing argument, is utterly devoid of policy, and dare I say, trying to foment racial animus, and of course, cynical deployment of anti-Semitism smears against Abdul al-Sayed. So we start here.
When
Abdul al-Sayed did this interview with Amani, Muslim girl, right? And in this interview, this is one of the choice quotes from the interview, Abdul al-Sayed says, AIPAC, come after me.
When AIPAC watches this, come for me. See what happens. Come for me. Like, I know you keep coming, but you picked literally the least capable candidate in America, right? And then Chuck Schumer doubles down, and then AIPAC doubles down. And part of me is like, okay, look, if you think you can beat money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all, come. But I'll tell you what people don't want. They don't want money in a foreign government. They want money here. When AIPAC watches this, come for me. See what happens.
So it's pretty clear he's targeting AIPAC, which has spent, upwards of $34 million on this race so far. Almost $40 million on this race alone, and the primaries alone. That's a pretty significant number. And it's perfectly understandable that he's even sidestepping Haley Stevens to a certain degree and just talking about AIPAC and saying that AIPAC fucked up by choosing the wrong person. Now, this was very frustrating for Haley Stevens, who is slated to lose this primary, inshallah, right? And she delivered this this closing message. Abdul, we were both on the ballot in 2018, which, for those of you who don't know, 2018 was basically 40 years ago. 2018, I was 3 years old back then. Get it out of your system. For all the chatters in here, we're going to be like 2018. That was 45 years ago. Okay? Abdul. We were both on the ballot in 2018. I was capable of winning my competitive primary and general election. You lost. You lost by over 20 points to Gretchen Whitmer, and you will lose to Mike Rogers by talking like this. Everyone in America understands you want to blame all your problems on Jewish Americans. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Jewish Americans? Let me tell you something. Okay? The notion that AIPAC is representative of Jewish Americans is perhaps one of the most anti-Semitic things you can say. Now, and I'm not even talking about it as like from the anti-Zionist perspective, right? I'm not even saying that as like the woke guy who's always fucking talking about how Israel is fomenting anti-Semitism. I'm just straight up looking at the objective numbers of what American Jews despise. AIPAC is up there. Okay? At this point, there are few things less popular than AIPAC for American Jews. You can make an argument, a separate argument about Zionism, what it means to American Jews, or Israel and what it means to American Jews to varying degrees. Some people defend it, some people don't, whatever, right? But AIPAC is seen as this far-right, MAGA billionaire-backed institution, this organization that is unbelievably undemocratic and unbelievably unpopular. So for her to just say AIPAC is actually a substitute here for all American Jews is more anti-Semitic than anything that they have claimed Abdul al-Sayed has ever said. Not anything he's actually said, because he's not anti-Semitic at all, but even their claims do not come near the level of anti-Semitism demonstrated in this talking point. Okay? But of course, we expect that from the stick it to 'em, that's the Michigan way candidate. But buddy, let me be very clear. I will lower the cost of groceries, ban stock trading for elected officials, stop Trump's abuses of power, and protect Michigan manufacturing. And you'll just be a celebrity whining and writing books to get even richer. You're part of the complainer class, looking for their next book or podcast deal. Bro. Bruh. She said, bro. I just want to work for Michigan. What gives? Yeah. So obviously, this is her closeout. This is her final message. And her final message is like, you're complaining too much. Which, by the way, given that Abdul is, running for office in a primary, she's not just saying that about Abdul, she's saying that about all voters. Voters who want to vote for Abdul, voters who, might share the same frustrations that Abdul is channeling and communicating solutions to. So she's basically just saying, shut the fuck up. Not just to Abdul, but to anyone that is complaining. Anyone that is complaining about, Donald Trump, prices, the level of influence that Israel has on American democracy, our endless warmongering overseas. So yeah, Haley Stevens saying that is so unbelievably out of touch, but it doesn't matter, right? The media still plays the same silly song and dance. Although, if you look at this, most American Jews oppose AIPAC spending in Democratic primaries, survey finds. Most have not heard much about the role pro-Israel groups have played in this year's primaries, another survey found. So, I found this to be waving the white flag. But in some respects, she was waving the white flag after dumping 60 million. Okay, dumping 60 million into this race. Is Haley Jewish? No. Contrary to what some people in the commentary sphere have claimed, and contrary to how Haley Stevens presents herself, Haley Stevens is not Jewish. She's not. She's Christian. But it doesn't end there. Here's the other parting message. And this is the part where we get really online. Are you ready for this? Haley Stevens says, they might not like how I sound, but I will make sure that Michigan is heard.
There's those cool kids on the internet making fun of how I talk. But let's be real, they're making fun of Michigan. Their jokes make me fight harder. Just like I did when I was working for President Obama. Like I'm doing standing up to Trump.
Yeah, President Obama. When I was an intern, I sat next to President Obama.
To stop ICE. They might not like how I sound, but I am going to make damn sure they hear us in the halls of power.
Yeah. So, again, this is like an online phenomena, okay? I'm willing to bet not a single damn person in this room gives a shit about the way you sound or has heard, I don't know, barbarism critic getting a fucking viral tweet off on how you sound. You know what I mean? Can you imagine making that your fucking campaign? It's somehow even dumber than making your campaign around like Abdul El-Sayed hung out with his sound piker. He's a Twitch streamer. You guys need to know about this guy. He's real bad. What gives? Like you really got 70-year-olds in the room being like, yeah, Haley, I'm voting for you because Obama, and they're making fun of the way you sound, which sounds very normal and very real. Yeah. You never see so many black people on TV until it's voting season. That's actually a very interesting point, especially nowadays when like the anti-woke corporate attitudes really settled in. And people were running the fucking gamut on the anti-woke shit. Everyone in that room is on Medicare and they don't want you to have it. Yeah, there's also an element to it. There's also an element of that in there too. Boomer resentment. You know how it is. Boomer cons. Conservative boomers. That's how they operate. It is what it is. What are you going to do? But I'm a Michigander in Ann Arbor, and you sound exactly like Haley Stevens, right? Obviously. That's what we've learned. I mean, I've been up and down this state quite a bit for Abdul in the last year and a half. I have yet to encounter one motherfucking person that sounds like Haley Stevens. People from Michigan have said she's trying to do a Yooper accent. Maybe I haven't been to the Upper Peninsula. Okay. This is how you know. This is how you know I'm fucking Michigan. Okay. This is how you know I'm a real one. I know this. Okay. But if you ask Haley Stevens, who's now nationalized this Senate campaign, the Senate primary, the only takeaway that she wants you to have from her disastrous dumpster fire of a campaign is that this is how everyone in Michigan speaks. That's devastating. Okay? That's devastating. That is ridiculous. I don't know, bro. She's really growing on me. Like, yeah, like a cancer. Yeah, she's trying to pull the John Kennedy nonsense, but as a Democrat. It's actually really interesting to see it happen as a Democrat. It's unexpected. You don't usually expect this from Democrats, right? Democrats go in the opposite direction, where they code switch when they go to the South. They try to ham up their black scent, right? That's usually how it goes. Miss Rachel endures most of the remaining DSA slate. Miss Rachel is our strongest warrior. Let's be real. I love her so much. Rural Michigander here who travels all over the state. I have also never heard anyone sound like her. Yeah, because she's literally exaggerating it. Bro, she went to a private school that is $60,000 a year. She's from Rochester. She literally grew up in the same fucking town that Nick Pollum grew up in. Does Nick Pollum sound like that? That's one of the other characters of this race that I just don't fucking appreciate. This like subtle but not so subtle way of saying like, I'm from Michigan. My opponent is not. Dog, Abdul was born like 10 miles away from you. What the fuck are you talking about? He's not real Michigan. I think we know what you're saying when you say the brown guy, whose name is Abdul Rahman Mohammed El Sayed, of Egyptian descent, is not real Michigan like you are. Okay? That's been hella annoying too. The fuck do you mean I'm real Michigan, unlike my opponent? Unlike my opponent. He doesn't have a quirky accent. That's real Michigan. So all of this, aside from the dog whistles, right? Aside from the dog whistles, all of this is signaling one thing and one thing only. Okay? For some, that like sectarian animus will work. Could work, especially for boomer cons, right? But like that hyper focus on the way you speak, the hyper focus on how like you're being bullied online, this kind of stuff is not in any way, shape, or form designed to be appealing and designed to draw voter turnout. Unless you're signaling to one constituency only, and that is people that live in DC, the consultant class that spend every waking moment on Twitter just like we do and are constantly getting into battles on there, and the resentment that they carry over from anonymous Twitter accounts with like, DSA roses on them, or anonymous Twitter accounts to hammer and sickle on them, carries into like some kind of political representation in the real world, as though these factional battles between Neera Tanden and her reply guys and gals is in any way, shape, or form going to have an impact on the lives and livelihoods of Michiganders. I need people. I don't want to give advice to my opposition. But it doesn't really matter because they never listen to me. Even when I am literally yelling at them over and over again about what's going to happen next, and then it inevitably comes true. Yes, there's IRL today. Okay, yes, there is IRL today. And I'm just going to give them advice one more time. Stop hyper-focusing on Twitter battles that you have. These things are not appealing to the average people. You have to run on a policy-first platform. Hopefully this message carries over to some of the centrists that won their primary races, so that they don't run stupid fucking races in the general and lose to the goddamn Republicans. Okay? Heed my warning. Anyway, there was also another Dave Weigel tweet that I think is maybe a little bit off color. El Sayed is confident to the point of cockiness in a way you don't much see from the Dems. Stevens tried to make this an issue. I really think that losing to Trump twice made the Dems think maybe we need a Laxborough who will knock their teeth out. Here's Abdul Al Sayed, the man who's likely to be the Democrats' nominee. This is Jim Garrity, National Review senior political correspondent, saying, here's Abdul Al Sayed, the man who's likely to be the Democrats' nominee for U.S. Senate in Michigan, in a podcast interview in April. J.D. Vance has brown kids who he thinks are less American than everyone else. Like, that's wild to look at your own kids and be like, you don't actually belong as much in this country that I brought you into. And honestly, like, J.D. Vance's kids, I love you. Like, Usha, like, get out, okay? You still got time. After El Sayed said that, the host, Brian Allen, turned to the camera and said jokingly, Vance, if I know you're going to see this, do not sue me, all right? I did not know he was going to talk about you like this. I had no idea. See, even for Dave Weigel, now at the semaphore, who, roams around the country as a part of his job, this is a little bit out of touch. This is precisely what voters are looking for. A human touch. This codes as a real fighter for the voters. Because real voters, just real Americans, they feel the same way when they hear about a guy who's the vice president of the United States of America, who has an Indian American wife, who has Indian American children, right? Running around, hyping up white supremacist values and claiming that his wife is probably going to go to fucking hell for not being a committed Catholic like he is. That is a very normal take. This is not an abnormal thing to say. It's uncivil to a certain degree, right? But this is exactly what most normies think. They hear this, they hear J.D. Vance and Usha, and they go, your kid's name is fucking Vivek, man. What do you mean America's getting too brown? What the fuck are you talking about? Your kid's name, one of your kids' name is Vivek. Okay, Vivek. Your wife's name is Usha. You went to Yale. You are supposed to be hyping up how multicultural and diverse this goddamn country is. That's one of the best qualities of America. Our diversity is our strength. And meanwhile, Jedediah Vance over here on his 8th name change is running around being like, yeah, no, it's actually kind of bad. Maybe we got too diverse. Motherfucker, you got too diverse. You made the country diverse. It don't make no damn sense. It would be like if I ran around being like, these motherfuckers named Hassan, named Zohran, named Abdul Rahman are coming into this country telling us how we should and shouldn't live our lives. I'm sorry, your name's not Peter, it's not Paul, it's not John, it's not George. You don't get to tell us Americans how we can and can't do things. Can you imagine if that was my commentary? Everyone would be like, dude, your name is Hassan. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, aren't you an American? The fuck do you mean? It is outright hypocritical. And guess what? People love identifying and calling out hypocrisy. People like identifying and calling out hypocrisy perhaps more than actual bad things that people do. They care more about hypocrisy than they do, or perceived hypocrisy, than bad acts. Okay? In any case, isn't that just Patrick David's whole thing? Yes, but we call it out. And it's for the average worker, it actually works a lot. It actually works against them. So yeah, CNN and Fox are going a little crazy. How do I skip this? Oh, okay. Holy shit, dude. What the hell? 534 new articles were written about me on mainstream outlets since I last visited this website. Fox News, top Wisconsin Democratic socialist confronted on past defund the police rhetoric. Far-left streamer Sean Piker guarantees Democrat nominee will be anti-Israel. Watchdog unleashes database to expose loopholes in $5 billion foreign cash flow to U.S. nonprofits. The Hill, an American ally is adopting Beijing's playbook. Politico says Piker is driving a wedge in the Democratic Party. Piker predicts 2028 Democratic nominee won't be pro-Israel. Piker makes bold prediction about 2028 Democratic presidential nominee. Yeah, that's not a bold prediction, man. That's like me saying the 2028 Democratic nominee is going to be pro-abortion. Okay? That's only a unique take if you are still in 2026 completely and utterly out of fucking touch and out of step with the actual voters. Please go outside and talk to a single person, I beg of you. Like, you cannot have your only interaction, if you're in the media, if you're in mainstream media, okay, your only interaction with the real world cannot be a DoorDasher that you awkwardly receive your DoorDash delivery from. Okay? Girl, they already starting to move to the left. Kamala Harris. I know this is going to be controversial coming from me in particular. We need to revisit the Electoral College. We need to revisit the point of expanding the court. We need to revisit, if they so want, statehood for Puerto Rico and D.C. Whew. Kamala Harris is back, baby. Chameleon Harris. FYI, Haley Stevens is lying about where she grew up. I grew up in Rochester. Also, FYI, that's not an accent I've ever heard. And she graduated from Seaholm, a Birmingham high school. The only reason to lie about growing up in Rochester is because you think Rochester is poor and relatable, which is hilarious. Birmingham does make Rochester Hills look poor. Yeah, Kamala Harris, Hasanabi hit 2028. It's really funny that I said a relatively uncontroversial thing, and not just like relatively uncontroversial in our community, right? Like what I said about the 2028 Democratic nominee, I'm not going to have to worry about them being, pro-Israel. Okay? Why did I say that? Well, the reason why I said it is because I'm a normal person. I go outside. Okay? I'm in touch with regular folk. I go door knocking. I interact with my community. I visit my public parks. I have a lot of normie friends. It's ironic saying this because obviously for many, they look at me and they're like, bro, you're literally live 8 hours a day. How dare you claim to be fucking normal? Here's the thing. Every moment that I'm not live online, I'm around regular folk, regular people, my friends, people that I meet out in the real world. I talk to them. I'll give you one example. We're driving over to the hotel this morning. Okay, an hour ago. We start canvassing the driver, let's be real. Okay, we start talking to the driver. You know how I love, hearing about people's unique political perspectives. He's a kind of older guy, maybe in his 50s, right? And we're like, what do you think about Abdul al-Sayed? He goes, I don't know much about him, but I have a 19-year-old son. And he's a big fan, and he's been trying to convince me. But even with our conversations, no, Hassan, don't do a tale to show how normal you are, please. Wait, what? No, this is not a tale about how normal I am. What the fuck's wrong with you? This is just a conversation that I had with a person. He says, says, one thing that really bothered me is I've heard about him from my son. Don't know who I was going to vote for, but I think after this conversation, in the end of the conversation, he said he's voting for Abdul al-Sayed. But before we get there, he said, my son's brought him up a little bit, right? And at first I didn't know who he was. But then every time I go on YouTube, every time I watch my little clips on YouTube, every time I watch anything, okay? I am getting inundated with these ridiculous attack ads. They're calling him all these different names. And the reason, what actually pissed him off, apparently, was that they kept calling him sexist. And he's like, they kept calling this guy sexist over and over again. And then the reasons as to why they're calling him sexist is because what? He like ran against a woman in the past. He's like said things about their opinions. I don't understand it. Like what's sexist about this? And because no normies use the word inundated. No, I'm saying inundated. Okay, he didn't say those words. He didn't say inundated. Shut the fuck up. He just said he sees these ads all the time, okay? Every time he turns on the television, there's another ad calling Abdul sexist. Every time he turns on the YouTubes and he's watching his little clips, he said. He sees ads running right before it. No, not a white guy, brown guy. Indian. Anyway, he was just like, it turned me off. It turned me off from Haley Stevens. It turned me off from Haley Stevens because, I think the honest assessment here is that the average person may not give that much of a shit about sexism. I'll say that. Okay? This also validates the other theory, which is boomers love when young people tell them who they like and who has got them activated enough to go and fucking vote. So that's why you have a really important opportunity to talk to your parents and to get them out, canvass your parents. And the barrage of ads is backfiring because people go, all right, well, what the fuck's up with this guy? They end up looking into it. And if they have at least one person in their lives that is close enough to them, or if there's someone who's, phone banking and it's like a young person on the other side of the phone calling them up to be like, hey, I'm, very excited to talk to you about the primaries coming up. All of a sudden, all of those attack ads just feed into the name recognition and they flip super easily. Okay? That's it. That's it. So that is part of the reason why Abdul has a lot of appeal. Meanwhile, the media is still desperately trying to present him as this like unelectable radical, and it's not. It's not working on the ground at all. It's so not working on the ground at all. But here, Semaphore wrote this article about Hillary Skolton. Abdul is going to win Hillary Skolton's district. She's a Democrat in the House of Representatives, controversial. Has some allegations, some rumors that she might be having an affair with the Republican running for governor. She's been saying that she's not going to endorse Abdul al-Sayed. She's not going to work to get Abdul al-Sayed elected if Abdul is the candidate. Going against the vote blue no matter who narratives. Oh, shit. What is this? Motrin? Oh, hell yeah. Thank you. That's goated. And of course, Adam Johnson, the media critic himself, says the piece is tailored around one person, ironically enough, but it makes it seem like there's a big point of difference here, big controversy here around, like many Democrats are saying they're not going to fucking support Abdul El-Sayed. But that's not the case. Democrats are staring down the possibility that the party won't unify behind Abdul El-Sayed, who's leading by double digits in Michigan's heated Democratic Senate primary. Adam Johnson says this piece cites exactly one person refusing to support El-Sayed, Hillary Scholten. That's it. That's the only evidence. It also once again frames opposition to El-Sayed entirely as electability concerns, not ideology or donor pressure, even though it's ideology and donor pressure. We have zero evidence Stevens is more electable. Polls are roughly even. Betting markets, to the extent that these pose any insight, are unmoved. It's just racist. It's just a racist vibe, a dogma, a convenient narrative that allows pro-Israel and capitalist ideologues to launder their ideology. Okay? Abdul El-Sayed is far more electable than Haley Stevens. The evidence for that is the fact that he's going to win the primaries next Tuesday. Okay? It's really funny that random centrist Democrats in districts that Abdul will win by 60 to 70% think that their endorsement matters in any way, shape, or form when the polls have remained unmoved in spite of the governor and the outbound senator endorsing fucking Haley Stevens. Hillary Scholten, what the fuck do you think your endorsement is going to do? Keep your endorsement. These guys don't understand where the base is. They don't understand where the voters are. They think they understand it, but they've given up on trying to understand it. It's very obvious. They have just sat around in their comfortable perch, in their ivory towers, and kept spamming the electability argument that corporate media consistently churns out every fucking primary, every general election, every midterm season, every presidential campaign. Oh, we got to pivot to the center because the voters demand moderate Democrats. Bullshit. There's also new polling that suggests that with black voters, El-Sayed is up 5, at least in one poll. It's a bit of an outlier in comparison to the other polls that have polled black voters, but it's not shocking to me. These are the crosstabs coming from Mitchell Research, but I suspect if we look at the crosstabs, they might have oversampled, not oversampled necessarily, but oversampled in comparison to other to other pollsters, the youth vote, and that's probably the reason why Abdul gains an advantage in the black voters. But yes, if he is capable of bringing turnout in Detroit, Wayne County, if he's capable of bringing out the youth vote in Wayne County, then yeah, Abdul might even defeat Haley Stevens on this demographic as well. A lot of the 20 plus or so black polls for Haley sampled Detroit a fuck ton compared to the state at large. Haley unfortunately has a large base in Detroit. Yeah. It's older black voters. The last vanguard of the establishment Democrats. That's what it is. But that voting bloc will never not vote. And they will certainly never not vote for the Democrat. Unless there is a establishment Democrat spoiler and Jim Clyburn tries to come in and tries to rat fuck the race or something, which is not going to happen because the Senate Democratic majority hinges on this race. They're not going to do that in the same way that they tried with Andrew Cuomo against Zohran Mamdani in New York and failed, right? No one is. Once the primary's over, I suspect that most of the Democrats will consolidate behind Abdul and will be pushing for it. They won't be as enthusiastic as they would for like a James Tallarico, for example, but it doesn't really matter, right? As long as they do not present a hurdle, which some might, but those people who do this, for the record, the ones who will still try to present a hurdle will be outcasts. They will not have enough motion. That's my suspicion. This is speculation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Democrats will show a side. Like maybe the Democrats will show cynicism to that degree, a degree that even I don't expect, where they will just, in order to try to prove their narrative that like in swing states, you can't have a socialist-friendly candidate. They'll try to rat fuck it. They'll try to destroy the chances. They'll try to launch an opposition. I don't think so. Finally, good press about you. I don't know if this is going to be good press or bad press. We'll see. It's Donny, but it's at CNN. So it's probably received as much scrutiny as anything you will ever see. It's going to be me talking for a little bit and then minutes and minutes of Josh Gottheimer calling me a monster and, James Carville being like, hey, I don't know what he's talking about. That type of shit. But this is one piece of that, which apparently hit election Twitter like a goddamn atom bomb. Okay? Everyone is very upset. Everyone is very upset about two things that have come out from this interview so far. And Donny, he's pumping it. He's hyping up this goddamn documentary like his life depended on it. And he loves it. Okay. He loves how he's retweeting everyone from every part of the ideological spectrum, being like, oh yeah, this pissed you off, huh? You should tune in on Sunday to watch the whole thing. So we'll see. I have no idea what the final product's going to look like. I expect it to have to give me somewhat of a fair shake, as fair of a shake possible from the current formation at ZNN. So we'll see. But this was one clip that everyone got really mad about.
These guys have failed so publicly and so spectacularly that it has caused people to seek out alternatives.
I see challenges from the quote, progressive left, unquote. And these people are too hard-headed to know that they're not popular. People don't like them.
Yeah, everybody likes, who everybody likes? Bill Clinton. Everyone knows if there's one figure that's popular in American politics in 2026, it's Bill Clinton. Y'all remember Bill Clinton?
They don't win elections. They never run against Republicans. They just run against other Democrats. And their only message is, we're going to blow everything up.
James Carville says this is all going to implode at the general election.
Yeah, as opposed to previous neoliberal Democratic candidacies that have been spectacular successes so far. Hillary Rodham Clinton in 2016 and Kamala Harris in 2024. There are a lot of people who are just like, this is not working. Cost of living crisis is completely out of control. Democrats haven't done anything about it. Republicans haven't done anything about it. There has to be a different alternative.
I have one simple philosophy about politics. Winning is everything, stupid. Let's think of somebody. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders ran for president twice. You know what he did twice? He lost. By a lot.
Because for progressives, getting out of the primary is a far more difficult battle than winning in the general. This is our theory. The reason for that is because Republicans don't have a vision for change. Socialists do.
So obviously this is a shortened version of my broader theory that I've talked about quite extensively here on this broadcast, which is the idea that if Democrats consolidate their turnout machine behind socialist candidates, left populist candidates, they will do tremendously well in the general election, because left populist candidates and Democratic socialists in particular have an agenda, right? They have a theory of change. They have long-term goals. They have short-term goals. Unfortunately, neoliberal Democrats, the right-wing flank of the party, the centrists, they do not. They're constantly finding themselves in a defensive posture against the Republicans. They're constantly playing by the Republicans' game. That needs to change. But we've never been able to show this theory of change because the primaries, for the longest time, were impossible to get out of, right? Now that's changing. Now the primaries are actually, in our favor because the Democrats no longer, like the Democratic voters, no longer believe that ridiculous electability argument, the pivot to moderation, the arguments that were presented with Hillary Clinton, with Kamala Harris as well, to a certain degree, with Joe Biden to a certain degree, where, everybody consolidated behind Joe Biden because they were like, oh, it's impossible. Bernie will never make it out. Ruva Roman is criticizing you on this clip. I know. So I saw that. And I think there's a misunderstanding here. Okay. She says, strongly disagree with Hassan the Hun on this, and I'm once again strongly encouraging him to come visit the South. Both primaries and general elections are extremely hard, just in different ways. We cannot be complacent going into November. There's no point where I've ever said we have to be complacent. I didn't say that. I just said that my worldview is, my opinion on this is, and we will show the world this reality, we will shock the world, okay, that left flank Democrats will defeat Republicans more handily than centrist neoliberals with no vision. That's it. That's it. I didn't say the general is going to be easy. It's going to be horrible. In any case.